How's it going, everyone? This is episode 64 of VR Roundtable. I'm Chris. I'm going to be hosting this week. I'm joined by Gary, Anthony, and Steve. Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Yeah, just a average VR week. Actually, not an average VR week for me because I've played a lot more than I planned to. Generally, as I've said before, I sort of don't play too much during the weekdays, and then sort of Friday, Saturday, I'll play a lot more. But this past week, I've sort of played VR pretty much every day of the week. I think every evening. So yeah, I've got in there and played a lot more this week. It's been good.
That's awesome. Awesome. What about you, Anthony? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. And, one thing I want to say at the top of this show is I need to apologize to Bethesda and basically everybody that watched the last two episodes where I was pretty negative on Skyrim, talking about all my problems. I found out what my problems were. It was simply this picture frame that was in my living room, this huge ass picture frame that I didn't notice my wife had put it up. And I took the picture frame down. Everything is great. I mean, it's night and freaking day. I can manage the menus. My arms don't end up over there anymore. It's like a new game. It's crazy.
So if it's as big as you say it is, how did you not notice it?
I don't know. I just didn't notice it.
It is really satisfying though when you do find these little problems that you're having, and then you realise there's a simple solution to sorting them out. I had the same thing, like the thing with my guitars, where the Vive, the Lighthouse lasers were bouncing off the guitars, and I had my guitars in this room for a long time, but in slightly different positions. I never had any problems, and then suddenly one day I just thought I'll cover them up and give it a try, and it was absolutely flawless tracking from that point on. It's a little bit satisfying when that happens.
Yeah, man, I always had this one area in my basement where, I guess the window light came in or something. And whenever I walked in it, my headset would just go and I'd fly away every single time. So it was good when I finally figured out why. I don't know. I still don't think I actually solved that one. I've tried to put up boards or whatever, but oh well. Steve, how you doing?
I am doing pretty good. Don't have anything to report. It's very, very right. Average run-of-the-mill week here.
That's good. Man, it's going to be hell week for me this week. I have so many assignments due, and then next week is finals. So, but, still got time to do VR here and there. So I guess we can move into the first news story, which, there's not too much to say on it really, but Oculus Go dev kits have began shipping, and VR Scout got some pictures of what the dev kit looks like. It's probably exactly what the consumer version will look like. What's cool to me is they have a picture of the inside of the lenses, and they look like Fresnel, basically, just maybe, I guess, the next generation of Fresnel lenses. I don't know. Gary, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so just looking at these pictures on here, it's when you see these promotional videos of this headset and how it looks so perfect, and the strap is in a perfect arc around and everything like this, and it sort of looks like a rigid strap, and you think that looks awesome, and then you see these pictures in real life and it's just a fabric strap, and that's okay, that's what really we need to expect from this thing. But it looks okay, it looks pretty comfortable. I'm still excited for this, but yeah, they do make a point on this VR Scout article. They do make a point of taking a photo of these lenses, because for me this is one of the bigger things, how they've spoke about ththese lenses at OC4, and how they did sort of make a point of saying how these are the next generation. Everything is clearer, there's less God rays and this kind of stuff, but yeah, they do look just like Fresnel lenses really from this picture. It's difficult to tell until you're trying the headset, I guess. They've also got a close-up of the controller, which looks pretty similar to a Gear VR kind of controller, really. Chris, have you got a Gear VR? Does it have a trigger on the Gear VR controller as well? Because this has obviously got a trigger on this.
I don't have the controller part, but I know it does have a trigger. Yeah, if I got it. I have a Gear VR, but it's before they released the controller add-on thing. Yeah, something kind of interesting to that point is if you look at the Oculus Go controller, then you look at the Project Santa Cruz controller, they're basically identical. Like the button layout's identical, other than the fact that there's a little ring for tracking on the Santa Cruz one. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. I guess they're just trying to make everything similar so it's easy for dev support stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Anthony, do you have anything to add on this?
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
I'll wait till it's actually out.
Yeah. Anything for you, Steve?
No, there's not much to say. Looking at the like the video though, it kind of to Gary's point is you can see very clear concentric Fresnel grooves, and they're very obvious in the rendering that Oculus put out. So they talked about how this is supposed to be a step up and an improvement in lenses, and I really hope that's true, because it's one of the things I'm looking forward to most about trying one of these out is lens technology. We spend so much time talking about the resolution behind the lens, and I think if we were to have a true 8K, not the Pimax, but like an amazing resolution, we're still looking through cheap plastic lenses, and advancements in that space is very important. So I'm gonna hold out. I'm still gonna probably buy one because it's $199. It's relatively cheap. I don't have a portable unit because I can't use a Gear VR because I'm not willing to ditch my iPhone. So I'm still very, very interested, but I'm also sort of skeptical of how much an improvement these lenses could be. But it's cool that the I guess the story though here is that units are being sent out to devs, so it bodes well for them meeting their early 2018 release.
For sure, yeah. All right, well, the next thing is gonna happen pretty soon. On December 6th, Rift Core 2.0 is going to launch, and I'm super excited about this. I've been waiting for this forever. I don't know, I just feel like that'll make me want to use VR so much more, just being able to jump into a new redesigned Oculus Home and having Oculus Dash and all that stuff. So that is coming out December 6th, I guess. So I don't know. Next show we get to talk about that. That'll be fun. Yeah, I guess I could ask Gary, what are you most excited about? Probably Dash, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was thinking about this today because this story, it sort of came out. Some Oculus posted on Twitter last night about how this was launching in December the 6th. So it's this coming Wednesday. It's really soon. And I was thinking about it, and I honestly think this is going to sort of, I don't want to sort of overhype it, but it's sort of going to revolutionize the way I use VR, because the only reason I don't use VR more sort of on a daily basis is because I'm closing myself off. You have to make that commitment. You're going to go into a VR experience and you're closed off in the world for that time. And we've got alternatives. We've got things like OVR drop and things like that, which allow a similar kind of thing that Dash is offering. But to have it built into the Oculus software will just be a big difference for me. I like the idea of not having to close myself off in experience, especially things like something like simulators, like racing simulators, or Elite Dangerous is the one I'm particularly thinking of. So you can have windows there, so you can watch YouTube or Netflix or something like that. And when I think about like when I'm gaming on a desktop, generally I'm not just gaming. I've got other windows open. I've got a 3-monitor display, so I've got other things. I can do other things while I'm gaming as well, and that's really not the case with VR. You have to do one thing, and a lot of the time it's difficult. We're all adults, and I've got a family, I've got 2 kids and this kind of stuff. And I don't like the feeling that I'm closing myself off from all of these things. And part of me feels like, not that I'm wasting my time by being in VR, because I really enjoy it. It's my free time and that's what I enjoy doing. But part of it is the fact that I feel like there's you just can't do anything else. You're closed into that experience, and you have to make time just to do that one thing. And I like the fact that we can have other windows open, and we've just got the options there available to us. So I'm really looking forward to Rift Core 2.0 launching. I did have another point I wanted to mention, but it slipped my mind. So we'll move on to somebody else.
Okay. Yeah, Steve, what are you excited about for this?
Well, several weeks back when I had that Dell MR headset and was playing around the Cliff House, and I had made a few recordings, and just in general having that usability of my desktop within VR. In the video that I made, I was kind of showing how the Windows MR controllers track after you take them kind of out of view, and I had OBS up right there and was able to like start and stop recordings and get myself into position and all that without having to before that I'd have to start my recording before I put my headset even on. So you have like extra video to trim, and just all in all, like just workspace, and it's not just for people recording videos, but just having that desktop there, where you can have whatever you communicate with. Let's say you're using Skype. You know, you maybe you're chatting with your kid or something while they're playing a game. Like you have so many more options. Now, keeping my skeptic hat on, I'm waiting for the other foot to drop, so to speak, like, because this update sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic, sounds awesome, but I almost wonder, like, what's the catch? What are we giving up? What is going to be the downside? Everything always comes with a downside, right? Like, so maybe there won't be, but we'll see. Have to see, I guess.
Yeah, like for us, I feel like there won't be, but I know in their blog post they're kind of saying how the gamepad experience will be kind of less optimal, right? You know, it'll be a little finicky, I guess, compared to having touch controllers. So I think if you have touch, this is going to be a great update. Otherwise, you might be a little bit concerned, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't know who doesn't have touch, so that's probably not that big a deal. I saw a lot of... Yeah.
Quick question. So is the Oculus store, is that going to be completely revamped on the 6 as well? Because I'm kind of interested in that, because I've always felt like their store, I just don't like it. Like, you can't figure things out. It's just clunky. I mean, Steam, as bad as the whole Steam interface is, it's better than the Oculus interface, in my opinion, in terms of like finding out what released recently, you know, things like that. With Oculus, a lot of times it's kind of like this guessing game to try to figure things out. And so I'm actually looking forward to a complete revamp of their store.
Oh, that's true. That's definitely going to be coming out with 2.0. I'm excited for that. I don't know. I saw a lot of people being like, don't get too hype, it's just a beta. But at the same time, the whole Oculus interface has been in beta since launch, and it's still in beta. So I don't think the term beta really should be an issue to anybody, because like even when you open Oculus now, it's like Oculus is in beta still somehow. But I don't know. I'm excited. I feel like, you know, we need to lower expectations a little bit and like know there might be bugs and stuff. But other than that, I'm really looking forward to it. It's funny, like we all look forward to different things about it. I'm looking forward to the interactivity of the home and be able to redesign it and having friends over and stuff. That'll be fun. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to being able to easier force close games that don't close on their own. Like,
that'll be good.
You guys have that problem, right? Like, you go to close a game and it just won't close. Most of the time, it is an open VR game. You know, when I'm playing in Steam, but like, you know, like Doom wouldn't close. We're gonna talk about that later. Like, I have to take my headset off, go over to the keyboard, Control Alt Delete, ring up Task Manager, and just to get a damn game to close. So hopefully, Tash will have an easier way of accomplishing that.
Yeah, you'd think they'd add some sort of like force close button or something. I don't know. All right, the next story is a company we haven't really talked about in a while. Lytro revealed their Immerge 2.0 light field camera. And I remember like a while back, they kind of had this demo where, what'd they say? It was like multiple gigabytes of frame or something. And like, it was full volumetric video though. So that was what was really exciting about it. And now they're showing off their new camera. It's giant. It's like, I don't know. It's as tall as a person. There's probably like, 100 lenses in there or something. I don't know. Hopefully there's like an image on screen or something, but it's just massive. But, you know, it's really cool because I think this is the way that, I don't know, capturing real life will eventually have to go, with light field, capturing rays of light and stuff like that. I know in the past, you know, Lytro made those light field cameras, those like handheld DSLRs that let you tilt a little bit. So it gets a little bit of depth information, but it looks like this one is going to have a lot more of that. Yeah, I guess I can go to Steve first. What do you think about this giant camera thing?
We talk about video a lot. It's one of those things that interests us. And so the news story here is they've released, I believe, a 2.0. They're calling it. It's the Lytro Immerge 2.0, and it's what it's done. So what you're seeing, Chris, is it's about 1 meter or so wide, and I think there's something like 95 cameras in it. The 2.0 seems to be a little more compact, and they position the cameras so that they're off axis. So like one row of cameras will be pointing, you know, I guess 45 to 60 degrees one way, and then the row under it will be 60 degrees the other way. So it has a 120 degree field of view. But what that array does is it helps accomplish the volumetric video, and it's what we want from video. And I don't know the technology that every good video that we've seen use, like the Joshua Bell experience and so forth. But this technology was used on the recent Hallelujah experience. I didn't check that experience out, but I think you guys talked about it on the show and said that it was a good experience. I know somebody did. And I remember hearing good things about it on Reddit as well. So really, the takeaway here for anyone listening to the podcast and for us is that continual development is taking place in the volumetric video space. This Lytro company, I don't know that much about them, but they seem to be one of the leading companies doing this type of work. But in addition to the camera rig itself, they have a server that collects all the data. So like if you were to, I don't know if you can buy this or use it or what, but they also sell more prosumer level products, but their server that collects all the video, and then their Nuke software that kind of does they don't like to call it stitching, they call it building the model, the 3D model after it does effectively stitch all the video together. So as a company, they're kind of doing all of those elements, because just capturing the raw video is only one thing. I mean, any of us could capture, can build a rig out of wood with 6 iPhones on it or something, 6 GoPros, and capture video. But if we had all that video, we have no way of stitching it together. And the fact that this company is kind of doing all those elements is pretty cool. And I think they'll be worth keeping an eye on as we hope to eventually one day have volumetric video in VR that pleases us.
The volumetric video capture is really interesting to me, and I was one of the people that did try that Hallelujah demo. The problem was when it was released, I think it was released on the Oculus Rift or on Steam, I'm not too sure which, but either way, on the format it was released for desktop headsets, it didn't actually have the volumetric version. So the advantage of volumetric video capture is the fact that you have a little bit of positional tracking, so you can move your head from side to side and the video will adapt to that, so you get that extra advantage. And I think Anthony and Steve, you spoke about that being an advantage in the Joshua Bell experience. In the Hallelujah version that I tried, you didn't have that, so it's more or less like a very, very good 3D sort of 360 video or 180 video. So I'm yet to really try some of this volumetric video capture. I expected to try it in this Hallelujah experience, but they didn't release that version for whatever reason on the format that I tried it. But yeah, it's all interesting stuff. And as you say, Steve, this new camera, this 2.0, it's taken a slightly different view. So it's got these cameras pointing in alternating directions, whereas the previous version, they were all pointing forward. And I guess, well, what they're saying here is it gives a wider field of view when they do that. So it looks good. I honestly really want to try this. I want to try this Hallelujah experience as it was meant to be seen. That's I don't know any way of getting hold of that, but I hope that will be released at some point.
Yeah, I don't think they realized, like, even if it's like a terabyte, I'd still download it just to try it. I don't know, like even if the frames are a gigabyte per frame or whatever, I still want to try it at least and delete it after. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that when can we sample this? That's always been my take. Whenever I hear all of this stuff, it's like, okay, let's see a sample. I remember Intel has something they're doing along these lines as well, right? And they had a conference somewhere and they were actually showing some people and a few people said it was incredible. But I guess if it's that much gigabytes per frame and stuff, it just doesn't make sense right now for everyday consumers. And I'm looking at this story, and one thing that it says here is Lytro says they're ready to bump the quality up to 10K per eye, but are waiting for headsets that can take advantage of such a pixel density. They're going to be waiting till like 2030 or something on that one, because that's going to take a while. But yeah, it would be cool if there was some way, like even if it's like watered down, incredibly watered down, just where we could kind of get a sample of it just to see what it looks like. I would imagine it would look like a YouTube video from like 2005, but if you could actually like move around and see inside it, even if it's incredibly blocky, just to get some type of sample would be cool. But we'll see.
Yeah. Also, they kind of are saying they can really like kind of improve old experiences with new techniques, new software techniques. So they had the Hallelujah experience outputted in 5K per eye, up from 3.5K. So like it's cool because like once they improve their software, they can improve what they do with the data they already get. So that's kind of neat just for like the future of VR. And like you never want to have like a 360 video look like crap in the future. So it sounds like if they're ready to bump up to 10K per eye, like they're gonna be able to keep up with all these headset advancements. Um, all right, I guess I can kick this over to Gary. Sony story.
Yeah, so there was something that I actually saw on Reddit for the first time, actually, when this story broke. But it was a story about where Sony are sending out, or they asked for people to sign up in order to have a free trial of a PSVR bundle. So I believe it was the Skyrim bundle with a PSVR and camera and everything else that you need to get that set up. And what it was, they asked for people to sign up. The sign up was sort of taken very, very quickly. They sort of reached their maximum allowance very quickly with this. So some of the lucky people that got in for this will be sent a free PSVR with bundle with all this extra stuff. Unfortunately, you only get to keep this for 14 days and you have to return it in sort of like new condition, really. But I guess their hope is that people would just want to keep these, and if you do keep them, you get to keep it for a very, very good price. So they're going to charge you $299 in order to keep this bundle. So if you're on the lookout for a PSVR anyway, this is a great way to get hold of one because it's a very good price. But yeah, that's all I really know about this. I didn't get in there quick enough, and I believe it's US only, so I wouldn't be in with a chance anyway.
Yeah, I believe they sent it to PlayStation Plus subscribers. So they had their Plus user base, sent it there, and I'm guessing they ran algorithms or whatever that said don't send it to someone who's registered a PlayStation VR on their account or whatever, because that's a waste. Because if they had sent it to me, I probably would have done it, because the Skyrim bundle is $450. Now during Black Friday week, we were able to get it $350 US in some places, so $299 is a good price for it, and I think you could turn a profit on it, or at the very least I think I could have bought one and gotten a free upgrade to a V2 unit after I parted out all the things that I didn't need anymore. So it's pretty cool. I think the takeaway is that they're looking for new ways to demonstrate VR, and this is an interesting way. I don't know if it'll be successful or not, but we know that VR has a discoverability issue, that they push the demos at Best Buy, and really I'm not sure if PlayStation VR has been demoed anywhere else, but Microsoft stores you could demo the Vive and whatever. You can demo the MR head units as well. So getting people to try this is where they're hoping to set their hooks, and this is an interesting way of hopefully getting people to take the plunge, and I hope to see more of it in the future if it's successful. So why not, if it's not a big loss for them? And
Yeah, for sure. I think it's cool because I know a lot of people are just like don't really want to do it in the Best Buy because they're like it's so awkward and you have people looking at you. And when I did it, everyone's like, "Whoa, VR!" I'm like, I was just in there, like I couldn't even respond. I don't know who said that. Someone said that, but no, I think this is good because once you're in your own home, you don't really have to worry about that. I don't know. It's good to see these alternative ways of selling stuff. Anyone else have anything to say about that?
Well, when I first heard about it, I was like, really? They're really going to do this? Because when I think of Joe Walmart, you give Joe Walmart anything, it's going to come back with some peanut butter stains on it. I mean, especially when it comes to the PlayStation VR, it's like if you're sending a PS4 to somebody, okay, so you got this big box that has a power cable, it has a video cable, it has one controller. That's one thing there, but you're sending PSVR. It's got a million different wires going a million different ways, and Skyrim is not a noob-friendly game to begin with. So the whole thing, I'm guessing they're expecting probably like 80% of the people are going to hold on to it, which probably makes sense. And it's probably a trial thing because only like 1,400 people or whatever got in on this deal. So they're probably trying it out as a method to spread the word. I'm just wondering if there might be like what else could be cost effective. Could they have somebody that just drives around to different people's houses and you just set up an appointment and they have like a van and hop in and try Skyrim in the van? It's a white van, kids. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You also you have to get charged $299.99, and then it's almost like a refund. Like they refund you the money after you return it. So like
it's a hold. It's a hold on your credit card.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Like they don't actually charge it, but like I don't know. It's very similar to just buying one and returning it, but I guess less sketchy and unpredictable. So that's good. Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to add?
Nope.
All right. So the next thing is Bethesda apologized and explained why Doom VFR didn't work at launch for the Rift. I don't know. This is a pretty PR-ish statement, and as we know, Oculus is in like a legal battle with ZeniMax and all that. So that's a little bit of probably the actual reason why Doom VFR didn't work with the Rift, but. I don't know. Does someone want to read the quote? I don't know. I'm bad at reading quotes.
No, I can do it. So here's the full statement from Bethesda. It's today Doom VFR was officially released for the HTC Vive and the PlayStation VR. Our development team has focused on making the game look and play great on these two platforms first. However, as we've always said, our goal with all of our VR titles is to bring them to as many platforms as possible, and we continue to evaluate expanding these options. When and if we have more information about additional platforms, we will let everyone know. At launch, we were only supporting Vive and PSVR. While we've heard Steam has been updated to allow the game to be playable on the Rift via the beta, the development team has not yet had an opportunity to test, optimize, and refine the game for the Rift. This is why the game was not playable on Rift immediately. We don't want anyone to have a bad experience on something we haven't tested yet. We understand Rift owners found this frustrating today, and we apologize for any confusion. Our goal is to always provide players the most stable and optimized experience on every platform we support. Now, having just read that, it's bullshit. Like, I mean, let's be real here. A stable experience. The game is quite buggy, and we can get into our takes on the game here in a minute. So kind of try to keep it on the PR statement subject first, but it's not the most stable, well-refined, perfect experience on the Vive. And I haven't played it on PlayStation VR, and I'd have to imagine, given Sony's stricter requirements, that it probably is more stable on the PlayStation VR. But ultimately, I think that I have to think the Rift support, Valve was obviously able to suss it out. Now, do I know if it is something that Bethesda did intentionally or if it was a legitimate error? No, I have to think, though, that the fine folks at Bethesda have a few Oculus Rifts laying around, and that they have played this game on the Rift. To say that they haven't tested it is kind of bonkers. They had to know that there are many consumers out there that went ahead and bought a code that only have an Oculus Rift and that was banking on being able to play this game. So hiding behind that PR statement is kind of crap. But what do you guys think? I don't want to keep going on about it.
You know what I've always said? Like, I remember way back when we were talking about the lawsuit. I don't know what episode this was, but many, many episodes ago, I remember I was in a thread on the Oculus subreddit, and this like lawyer guy was in there, and he jumped in and he was breaking down some realistic lawyer type stuff, talking about how, like, this was, I think it was more about Fallout 4 VR at the time, but he was saying that if it worked on the Rift right away without some type of hack, that could actually be damaging to their lawsuit, that they couldn't allow, like, it's not whether they wanted it to work on the Rift or not, that they couldn't, because if they did in some way, it could hurt their lawsuit, which I don't know how that works, but it works out for them great from this standpoint, because Valve stepped in, they did a little beta patch. It allows people to do it. They bring out this little PR statement so they can say, oh, well, we just didn't get around to trying it on the Rift yet. Eventually we'll get to it. We're focusing on these two platforms first. So they sidestep the entire legal entanglement issue. But I don't know. I don't know what the true story is on this, but I know that now that there's this fix here, as long as Bethesda had nothing to do with it, then it doesn't affect their lawsuit. They can say, well, that's just a hack. We didn't do that. So I don't know, but I wish I had the guy's statement where he broke it down, how the legal ramifications could have come into play, but he had a really logical reasoning about it. And it's not logical to us as fans of just games. We just want to play games. We don't understand all this corporate mumbo jumbo, but in their world, it's incredibly important. One little error could ruin your entire case, so.
Well, that's the thing is, so like they didn't release it on the Oculus store. They didn't make an Oculus SDK API version of the game. They made an open VR game. So that's it. Like there is no entanglement, I would think, if it's just an open VR game, a Steam VR game. Open VR being the name of that API. Because that just happens to be compatible with the Vive, and it also is now compatible with the Windows MR unit. So it also being compatible with the Rift is just a consequence of making an open VR game. And that's why everyone has assumed from day one that these Bethesda titles would work. I would agree with that person, and I never read that post, so I don't know what that person said, Anthony. But I would agree with him if we were talking about them making an Oculus SDK version. That's a huge entanglement because supposedly Oculus stole that software, and now Bethesda's using their own stolen software in a dev kit to make a game that they're then going to sell on the Oculus store. That would be a huge it would be an entanglement. So in this case, it being an open VR version, I don't see where there would be an issue. And also from a corporate responsibility standpoint, ZeniMax is the parent, Bethesda the subsidiary. Bethesda's obligated to try. Now, I'm pretty sure they're not publicly traded companies, but still, like for the people on that team, the people that work for Bethesda, the artists and the designers and everything, like you sort of owe it to them for their product, their creation, to be able to reach 50% of the PC gaming market, to completely lock it out from one whole roughly half of the market isn't really fair to those guys. So I would think that they would want to make the game compatible, and maybe this was a deal they worked in the back room with Valve, because Valve is the one sitting back printing money on this. Like, they got the exclusivity, don't really give a shit whose HMD it's being played on. They're getting their cut of it. So
yeah, I don't know. I think Valve is just I'm happy like that Valve actually did something about this, because I thought it'd always be like a revive hack or something if it came down to that. But I think that's cool. Like, that's the first time I've really seen, or one of the first times we've seen open VR actually be cool and like prove to be something awesome, like prove that it actually works. So they're just like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously they had to have put in something that's like no rifts. Like there's no question, if this was built on the OpenVR SDK without them customizing it, it would work on Rift just fine right out of the box. So they definitely purposefully intended it to not work.
No, did you read Valve's comments on it? Like, and you may understand it since you're in development school for gaming and whatnot. But
I think I saw it, but I didn't really.
It's something about to do with the hidden mesh. Like it sounded like what it was. It was very. I don't think it was a no. It didn't sound like it was a no Rift element of code, but rather something that perhaps they knew would trip up the Rift.
Exactly.
Unlike when Oculus did the intentional block last year of Revive, like there's no bugaboos about that. That's very clear and intentional. Here it sounds like if it was intentional by Bethesda, they did it in a way where one couldn't say they intentionally blocked the Rift. And again, exactly, I don't fully understand what hidden mesh means. Like that's deeper into the weeds than I go. But the official statement from Valve in the update said, it was a hidden mesh issue, whatever that means.
Well, that legal point that you guys were just making, it's an interesting one, and it sort of speaks to one of my confusions about all of this stuff is, why is everything such a big secret in the games industry? Why didn't they just say right from the beginning, this is HTC Vive and it will not work on the Oculus Rift? Don't even bother trying. It's not going to work on there. And also things like other things that they can speak of, the smooth locomotion. Everything is so hidden. They don't just come out and say it's not going to have smooth locomotion. Don't even hope for that because it's not going to be in there. It's going to have this, this, and this, and that's it. Why is everything such a big secret with everything that people, companies in the games industry do? It's so frustrating because there's so much speculation that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, you only have to look at forums like Reddit constantly. They're speculating about what's happening behind the scenes. They're making so many minute things. Well, this person said this in an interview. This person said this in interview, so that points to this. Why can't they just come out and be transparent about what's going on about all this stuff? It's so frustrating as a consumer of this stuff. I just wish they'd make it clear what to expect. It would save all of this backlash in the future. But, you know, there are legal points. There are legal points to make on this. So I guess that's why there's all this secrecy. I don't know.
Yeah, but like that, especially with the locomotion, though, like in other forms of media, I don't think anyone really cared what kind of locomotion was used. You know what I mean? But I think VR, like, you just need to announce with your game what kind of locomotion you have, or just like tell people what the options are. I feel like it's really a weird thing to keep secret. I don't know. That's really strange.
You know what was weird though, on Thursday night, like when this first hit and when it was just a total shitstorm for a couple of hours there on the Oculus subreddit, everybody on there was like, I can't believe that ZeniMax would have this much spite. You know, they don't like money and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you right now, no, they love money. Okay. This has nothing to do with spite. Companies don't get involved in that petty type shit. They're about money. They want to make money. They did this specifically to cover their ass. And as long as they didn't make it so that it was perfect for the Rift right from the beginning, they technically covered their ass. And some other company came in, did a little behind the scenes maneuvering, and now it works on the Rift. And to your point, Gary, the reason they came out and didn't say this will never ever work on Rift, because they know half of the market is Rift and they want these people to buy it, and they know there's going to be some type of hack. It'll eventually work. And as long as it's working halfway enough, then it's kind of like this. It's not the best thing in the world, but still they're getting thousands of purchases from Oculus Rift owners. But there's no spite here. These people want money. There's no spite.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to touch on all the smooth locomotion hacks that have been coming out, or?
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I know more about the Rift version one, which actually sounds better because you can use the touchpad on the Rift. So essentially what all these hacks do is they like remap arrow keys, I guess, on the keyboard, because I guess those still work in Doom VFR, like with motion controls or without it. So what people have been doing to work around it is like remapping their touch controllers or remapping their Vive thumbstick or whatever. Well, actually for the Vive, it's more like remapping the grip button or something, but just kind of letting it go forward or backwards and doing all that kind of stuff. So I think that's super cool that it's that easy to hack in. Like, you don't even have to edit the code or anything, really. You just have to edit a few config files a little bit. But it's so weird because smooth locomotion works with the gamepad, but it doesn't work with motion controllers. So it's just kind of like a weird thing. Maybe they weren't keeping up with where the industry was going or something they didn't know. I don't know. But it sounds to me like because of that, the Rift is almost like a better way to play it right now if you want the smooth locomotion, because with the Vive you can't really have the full thumbstick movement. So that's a little bit interesting. Yeah, does anyone else know about those kind of hack stuff?
I was aware that you could use it's OpenVR input emulator, which is a piece of software I haven't actually tried, so I can't speak too much to it. But like you were saying, you can bind the forward and back keys to the grip buttons on the controller, which to me sounds like a horrible way to play. Like, I wouldn't want to squeeze like one grip to go forward and like, I don't know why people want smooth locomotion that bad that they're willing to go against what the developer has said. We're not talking about Dave's VR development studio out back in the garage. We're talking about Bethesda here, and they don't walk on water. They're a very good game developer, but in my opinion, they created a game that the smooth locomotion or the lack thereof isn't like this huge deal to me. Like, I don't know why people are making so much noise about it. Like, there's the mechanics in the game that kind of steer it towards teleport, and maybe you don't like that, and I guess that's why people really want a smooth locomotion. But I find that I think I like playing it as it is, and I'm playing it on my Vive. I'm having a good time, and the teleport for me is fine. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's true. Do we want to just get into talking about the game then?
Yeah, I sort of did that. I made that decision for us, didn't I?
Okay, yeah. I don't know, Steve, do you want to start?
Sure, I guess I'll go into it. So, like, this is, I mentioned a couple weeks ago when Skyrim dropped that we're now in Bethesda VR game season. We had these 3 titles coming, and here Doom VFR is the second one. And compared to Skyrim and Fallout, which are ports, Doom VFR is a built for VR from the ground up title, and it, I like it, right? I'm just gonna just jump into my overall take is that I like this game. I liked it more than I maybe thought I would when I was hearing everyone's responses. Like, it looks great. It's got like it you feel a little bit of some of that old classic Doom. And Chris, I don't know, you can speak to it, but were you playing like some of the old school Dooms? Were you even born then, or no? Okay, so you don't have that nostalgia that we have. But like when you see the floating single-eyed monsters, like it invoked like memories in me, and it's such action-packed, and the diversity of weapons and the difficulty. This game does a lot right, and that's what's blowing my mind when I go onto Reddit and I see people saying it's the game's no good, it's a piece of crap, and all that. I'm like, this game's far from a piece of crap. I couldn't name 20 games right now that are arguably, without question, absolutely better than this game. And I think you would have to, if this game's a piece of crap, you should be able to name 20 games that are without question better. I think it's a great game, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it to somebody else so I don't sound like I'm rambling, but we can talk more about it. I think it's a good game. Gary, I'll send it to you.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we spoke briefly before the show about this, and I pretty much agree with you. I had a great time, and I'm coming to this from a point of view where it was released at midnight on the Thursday night, so the Friday morning for me. So I didn't get to try it until later on in the day on Friday. And by that time, I'd been reading all these comments on Reddit where people were basically saying it's awful, it's really, really bad. So, I was going in there with the expectation of I'm really not going to enjoy this, and I wanted to try it. I'll give it 20 minutes and just so I can talk about it on the show and say that I've given it a try, and yeah, everybody's right. 2 hours later, I spent 2 hours in this game, which doesn't happen very often for me in VR. And I thought I had a great time. But at the same time, all of these things that I've read previously before going into the game are going through my mind, and I can't really argue with them. People are talking about the hand position on the gun, and it's it's wrong. It's annoyingly wrong. But once you get used to it, and if you can overlook that and get past it, it's an annoyance that just sort of goes away for me. It doesn't make a lasting impact on the game or anything like that. There is this problem that people have spoke about for left-handed players where you can't swap the hands of the gun. So that's a big issue for those guys. So yeah, I mean, I can't really comment on that. Being a right-handed person, it doesn't affect me, but I can certainly see how it would be frustrating for other people. Then there's this other thing. You see, like you, Steve, I don't have a problem necessarily with the locomotion methods that they've employed. I think it's okay. I'm not overly keen on like the dash mechanic. I'd rather just have not have that in there, although I do use it, so maybe I should keep it. But sometimes you want to dash when you want to teleport, and this kind of stuff, you're dashing when you need to teleport, and that unless you've got your thumb in exactly the right position on the touchpad. Overall, I can't stop playing it. I think it's great. I love it. I played 2 hours without knowing that the game is only around 2.5 hours long. So I've been in there since then. And right now, all I want to do is go back in there and finish this game. I think it's great. And in terms of the criticism that's been sort of leveled at this game, I just wonder, because in terms of a first-person shooter in VR, this is definitely one of my favorites. And there's things like raw data, that got absolutely, everybody loved that. It got praised when it was first released. It had a very similar locomotion mechanic to this. I guess we're at a later date in VR, and people just have expectations that this really didn't meet for some of those people. It's not a big issue for me, but I can understand the criticism that's been leveled at it. At the end of the day, my final thing I'll say is the criticism isn't unwarranted, but it doesn't bother me, and I'm having a lot of fun with Doom.
Well, I'll be the hater. So first, I have three caveats that I got to clear before I go into my rant on it. Is okay. So number one, I didn't actually get the game working until Friday afternoon, and on Friday and Saturday yesterday, I was busy with a lot of stuff. And this morning I was busy too. I've barely scratched the surface of this game. So I've hardly played it. So that's the other caveat. And then the third one is my PC does not meet minimum specs. My processor doesn't meet minimum specs. My graphics card doesn't meet minimum specs. So I really don't have much of a basis to stand on here, but I'll go ahead and do it anyways. So I went into the game, I've been playing it, and the fourth one is I'm playing on the wrong VR system. I'm on an Oculus Rift. It was designed for an HTC Vive. It was not designed for an Oculus Rift. And it's obvious in the very beginning when you're in the tutorial and it's explaining how to do this or how to do that. When I'm trying to do it on my touch controllers, it's like I got one hand tied behind my back. I can go back to the days when I didn't have an Oculus Rift and I was trying to play Robo Recall through Revive, or I was trying to play the Mage's Tale through Revive, and it just didn't feel right. It felt like I'm fumbling through things. I'm kind of playing it, but it's just not good. You know what I mean? And that's that was the situation for me so far in what I've played so far. I've been in the tutorial and just getting through one thing I want to say about tutorials, and this is for every VR developer on planet Earth. If you're going to do a tutorial, this has happened to me so many times. You're in a tutorial, right? And it's going to explain some little thing about how you grab your shotgun, you do this to grab your shotgun, right? And a little message will pop up on the screen. If you accidentally hit a button too quick and that message goes away and you didn't read that message right, you are freaking boned. And I've seen this in so many different VR experiences. Have some way where you can flash that message back on the screen, because I was going through the tutorial. Again, I'm on a Rift, I'm not on a Vive, and the tutorial is for the Vive. It's showing the Vive controller. And if I didn't read the thing right, now I'm stuck in this tutorial and you can't really advance until you do the little thing that they wanted you to do. But it's like, damn, I didn't read what they wanted me to do. I accidentally hit the wrong button. Now it's gone. Now I don't know what the hell to do. So anyway, that's a little side tangent. But I was in the tutorial, and you're going through the little tutorial level, and it's kind of like, it's like a virtual, like, you're in like a maze thing, kind of like guiding you through how it's going to work. And doing the dash, teleporting around was pretty much okay, but trying to do the quick dash is very difficult on the Oculus Rift controller. The other thing is like when I'm shooting these enemies, I don't feel like it's kind of like Gunheart to me. My biggest criticism of Gunheart is when I'm shooting the bad guys, I don't really feel this feeling that I'm shooting the bad guys, like I feel like I'm dealing out punishment. It's just I'm shooting. Oh, okay, it died. But I don't feel like this impact of it. I don't know.
Have you used anything other than the pistol? And
just the pistol and the shotgun so far.
Yeah. The super shotgun for me gives the biggest feedback in that sense. When you're really up close to some of these enemies, I mean, and that's something I want to mention just quickly before we move on. But the fact that when you're too close to enemies and you try and shoot them, it is a frustration because you can't. It just won't acknowledge the fact that you've shot them, even though you plainly have. So you have to take a step back and then shoot them. But the super shotgun as a weapon is very, very satisfying. And some weapons more than others do have this impact, I think. And I've heard this criticism from other people as well, how the guns don't seem to have any weight or anything like that. And I think it's fair, but some do sort of get over that, really.
Well, so I got through the tutorial and then I got into the actual game. and I'm going through the game. I'm on a 970. It is a little bit blur, it is a little blurry. It's not the best. There's a little bit of stuttering here and there, but I'm able to play it, and I'm not judging it so much on that part of it. I'm not really judging the graphics of it. But for me, I don't know. It's like the telefrag idea, like that never appealed to me. This idea that you just teleport into the enemy and explode it. Like, what is fun about that? To me, there's nothing fun about that. Let me shoot the enemy, or let me teleport to the enemy and I'm right behind the enemy and I do some type of motion where I break their neck or something. But just teleporting into the enemy and having them explode, I don't feel like that's enjoyable in any way. But I've barely scratched the surface. But the thing that I have to say is, like, I don't have any desire to go back into this game, and again, it's all these caveats that I'm bringing to the table. Wrong system, below minimum spec PC. I've barely touched the damn thing, all the different things that I've said. So, I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm not gonna, like, I can't criticize the game for any of these things because I'm not using the right system and all of that. So I'm just gonna tell you what I felt so far.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle. No, yeah, I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I definitely will go back and play it. I'm gonna play on the Vive. Like, I was trying to do it on the Oculus just because I didn't have that much time, and like, my PC's here. I have to move my PC out into my living room just to use my Vive. So when I can play something on Rift, I definitely try to do that first. But yeah, no, this seems like it's definitely made for Vive, and I'm gonna try it with that. But I don't know. I've liked it. I've liked it a lot. The tutorial feels a little long, and like, it's always that issue I have where like they show you one mechanic, but you can't do the mechanics you used to be able to do, and I don't know. Like, that's a little confusing for me. But once I got in the game, it's cool. I died so much. Like, I'm only on the medium difficulty. I just keep dying over and over again. But I guess that's the point.
On easy. I'm still dying.
Yeah, I guess that's the point, really, huh? Like, you just die over and over again.
No, so it's like you got to keep moving. So and I think it's why they focused on the teleport, because you cannot stay still, and like, this is not a stand in place wave shooter. And in certain spots, the enemies may come to you in waves, sort of, but you have to keep moving. I think that's why they introduced the telefrag mechanic, because it's their way of telling you keep moving, keep moving. The enemies are fast. Those big, I don't know what they're called, but the big, like, tall guys that like also move like a freaking running back in the NFL, like they're huge and agile. Like, you got to keep moving and keep moving and keep moving, and it's chaos and it's explosive and it's doom and blood's going everywhere, and you got 12 guns at your disposal at all times or whatever. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. It's what they're hearkening back to. Sorry, not to interrupt.
No, that was good. Yeah, I think I'm getting better, but like you said, I started to learn, like, I literally have to be teleporting almost all the time, and like, I'm dodging the gunshots at me, and it's fun. It's definitely like an active game, more active than I've played in a while. So I'm gonna play more of it for sure. But yeah, I'm like in the middle. I feel like once I try it on my Vive and like the quality's a little bit better, I'll like it more. But also, I'm also below min spec. I think, right? What's the min spec for this? Like a 9 or like 1070?
1070, yeah,
right,
1070 apparently.
So I have a 980, so like, I'm a little better off than Anthony, but still not that much better off. So things are a little bit blurry. But I think overall, it's been getting too much hate for what it is. I mean, it is $29.99, so you have to keep that in mind. You're kind of paying a little more than you might want to for something that's only 2.5 or 3 hours long. But I think it's really good. I think I have a lot of friends who want to play this because they like Doom already. So it's good. It's good.
I did play it on just to your point about the Vive and the Rift, I did play it on both of the systems just to compare them. And yeah, I mean, it's better. I mean, to me, it's a lot better on the Vive. And like Bethesda
I'll second that. Like, it's not even close.
No, but like Bethesda say, it hasn't really been optimized for the Rift. There's no way they would have the control scheme that it has ended up with on the Rift if it was optimized for that system, because it's horrible to play it with those thumbsticks and pushing down in the direction you want to dash in or push down to teleport. It's not ideal. And I tried it, I couldn't get on with it at all. And also performance isn't quite as good on the Rift. for whatever reason, but it looks a lot better in the Vive. And, you know, I'm hoping that Bethesda will stay true to the word and they will bring this out and optimize it for the Rift at some point, because they have said they want to bring all these games to as many platforms as possible. And in fact, I think in one of their statements, did they say specifically they did want to bring this to the Rift? And optimize it effectively. I believe they did, so I'm hoping they do that, because it's. I honestly don't understand all of the hate that this game is getting. It's not perfect, by no means it's perfect, but it's a good game.
The one.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I was just going to say the one positive I will say, and again, all my negative comments, you can take it with a gigantic grain of salt, because I've played it for less than a half an hour, probably realistically, but the enemies do look very cool. That is the one thing that I will say. The enemies do look really cool.
I think it's fair, like, you know, given all the critique that we at least maybe mentioned some of the bugs, like bugs that we really hate or issues, and I'll give kind of two of them, three really. Like, I almost never use the dash. So what the dash is on the touchpad, and I forget exactly how it's done on the Rift, because I only spent maybe 20 minutes playing this on the Rift. But on the Vive with the touchpad, the dash is if you just kind of hit up in the sort of the four quadrants of the touchpad, you'll just kind of do a short hop and, you know, forward, backward, left, or right. And really the only time I've used the dash is when strafing, like only when I was fighting one big enemy and he's shooting things at me, and I can kind of use that as a strafing mechanism. The teleport is when you click the center of the touchpad, and then like any teleport mechanic, you can aim where you want to teleport to, and it's very clear, you know, big green circle where you're going to teleport to, and red if you can't. So there's no issues there. What I did run into is, at times the game is very frantic, and you have the big running back linebacker type guys coming at you, and then the more of the smaller minion type guys, and projectiles and things blowing up everywhere, and you're trying to just get the hell out of the way, and you end up dashing 2 times when you meant to teleport. Now, I don't know what Bethesda could do there. I would like to see an option that just says disable dash so that the teleport could be more directly invoked. The other issue I have is the weapon wheel. Like, so on your right hand with the other touchpad, you can click it in and it brings up a weapon wheel like we've seen a bajillion times in games of this nature. But you have to, it's almost like you have to redundantly confirm, like the pistol's at the top. So, you know, you touch the top of your touchpad, but then you got to kind of like click it in. Like, it doesn't, I should be able to quickly go to my rocket launcher or whatever, almost without thinking of it and even looking at the wheel. Instead, I got to kind of look at the wheel and make sure I'm confirming it the correct way. That's kind of tedious. And then the one other big thing, and I know you agree with me here, Gary, is that there's some sort of bug in the game where it will just freeze. And it's a freeze that freezes to your headset, to your view, and it's almost like when a game would crash, except it only freezes for maybe 2 seconds and then the game resumes. But when that happens, it's for me, it's always been when there's been some enemies all over the place and I'm trying to get out of the way, and then all of a sudden the world freezes and you turn your head and that view sticks with you, which is very, you know, kind of nausea inducing almost immediately, and then the game kind of picks back up where it was. And I've not, of all the games I played, and hell, I played just about all the major titles, I think, you know, all the platforms, I've not ever seen this bug before. And I'm somewhere around 2 hours probably in the game, and I think this has happened to me 5 or 6 times. It's a little more than it should.
If there was one thing about this game that needs to be patched out immediately, it's that, because that is the worst thing for me. That is the thing that all the other stuff, it's sort of minor, and I feel like they can make patches to very quickly get over some of these other problems. This one, it just feels, I mean, if it's a game-breaking bug, if there is a game-breaking bug in this, it's this, and it's the fact that it pauses, and then as soon as it comes back to moving again, it's almost like the dynamic resolution has gone really, really low, and then after a second or two, it will sort of get back to crystal clear clarity again. And also, Steve, you know, when I first played this game, we're both playing on sort of similar spec systems, I think. When I first played it, I did notice that this dynamic resolution initially, where when there's a lot of stuff on the screen, it looked to me like it was blurring out, but then maybe I think that wasn't happening, because since I've gone back in, it didn't seem like it was having this dynamic resolution. But the fact that this happens during this bug makes me think that it has got dynamic resolution, sort of adaptive resolution, depending on the amount of stuff that's happening on screen. And it's just something that you see, for me, I'd rather have something like a dynamic resolution in order to keep frames per second up. I like that idea. I like it, the fact that it could lower resolution in order to do that. I don't know if you noticed that during just normal gameplay, not necessarily when this bug happened.
No, it does. I noticed it in that almost that first wave of enemies that you fight. You have to go up and touch the red orb thingy, and it's kind of relatively early on in the game. That's when I noticed it first. And I'd say, like, playing an open VR or a Steam VR game, I prefer an adaptive resolution rather than frame drops, because the frame drops send you back to sort of, depending on what you've chosen as your kind of your background environment, but you'll see flashes of gray or white or whatever your base Steam VR kind of landing spot is. And so rather than seeing that, I would rather resolution drop down, because that's real kind of game breaking. But on the Rift, I almost prefer to maybe, and I don't know when it happens, but to go into more of like an asynchronous space warp and keep the resolution where it was. So really, depending on what system you're playing on, it would really deter my preference. But in this case, I've definitely noticed the adaptive resolution, but it's not a huge deal. Like, yeah, in an ideal world, I'd say it never does that. Never, we always stay at resolution. But if that's a trade-off for a game that looks this good, for me, I'm on a 1080 Ti, then I'll gladly take it.
Yeah, I'm left-handed. Like, I don't know if I've ever said that on the podcast, so that's been kind of annoying for me, but I don't know. Overall, like, all those little quirks aside, I think it's a good game, and I think, if you buy it, you're going to enjoy it. You're not going to just be like, oh, I can't switch hands, or, oh, it's freezing. I mean, the freezing is probably the biggest issue, really. But yeah, I don't know. Gary, do you want to talk about the next game?
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to do what one you want to do, but
well, what I'll talk about, because I haven't spent a lot of time from Other Suns, but I can certainly talk about it. And because we had a comment on the last show where somebody was saying we've still not mentioned From Other Suns, and it has, it's something that's just slipped us by, really, because it has been out for a few weeks, so we should probably talk about this. So I went into this game and, we played the beta of it, and it was really good. I've got to say, I really enjoyed the beta, playing through that. And a lot of the time I played it probably 3 times, the beta version, and only once or maybe twice actually, I played the multiplayer. So I was teamed up with a few other people, and I did enjoy it far more than I expected I would, because I don't really like multiplayer games that much. But I had a good time in there. So when I played the full game, honestly, my opinion hasn't really changed too much from when I played the beta. I still think it's a great game. And I actually took some advice from Anthony, because I sort of explained my reservations about this game to Anthony. And he said, just put it on Friends or put it on a private match, and then you can just go in and pretty much play this game as a single player game. So I've been in there a couple of times and I've played it, and it really is good. I mean, you can live out sort of Star Trek fantasies and actually Star Wars, because I think there's some specific Star Wars influences within this game as well, just in like the enemy robots and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a good game, I can't deny it, and I will be playing more of it. The one thing I'll say that's a little bit of a stark contrast to Doom, because the graphics in Doom are they're very, very good. When I've gone in there, I think they look great. But in From Other Suns, there is a stark difference, and the graphics are functional and they do the job, but they're sort of quite basic overall compared to some other titles that we've seen. And that's okay. I don't have a big problem with that. And playing it on the Oculus Rift, performance is fantastic. I'm having a good time in there. I'm very early on, so I've not really got too many comments to make beyond really what I spoke about in the beta a few weeks ago. I'll pass it over to somebody else.
I could go into it. So I've been playing it, and what I did initially is I'm trying to play it single player style, kind of. I set it to Friends, but I know the chances of somebody jumping in are extremely remote. So it's basically single player. And I know that this game is not designed to be single player. I completely understand that. But what I wanted to do is, like, if I could play like 5, 6 missions as a single player so that I get a really good feel for how everything works and like understand the concepts of the game, because I don't want to be in a multiplayer situation where I'm the one guy that doesn't know what the hell he's doing and I'm ruining the game for everybody else. That's always been kind of one of my concerns with multiplayer. And maybe it's something that isn't that bad anyway, because people are probably a little bit more forgiving with stuff. I mean, it depends on what the game is and who you're playing with. But so I've tried to play it kind of single player style, and it's worked out pretty well. And the first couple of times I was in it, I was like, man, this game is really polished. There's a lot of production value. There's a lot of it's dialed in. This is Gunfire Games. They've made a lot of VR games. These guys know what they're doing. And the tutorial is one of the best tutorials I've ever seen. Like the visuals for the tutorial, the audio for the tutorial, the guy that's explaining stuff to you, crystal clear. I mean, everything just sounds great. Everything looks great. I love the way they put the stuff on your wrist, and the hands they give you look really good. So all of that is great. And I went into a single player game and was playing that. And I did like one mission, and then I started another mission, and I started thinking, man, you know, this game's really cool. One of the downsides, though, is as I've continued to play it, is I've had some problems where the game just crashes, you know, and I just have to restart. I had one situation where I was in the game. I did all of this stuff. I went to this other guy's spaceship and I killed all the enemies there. And I got the, I got like the resources that this other craft had, and I teleported it back to my ship, and then I ended up saving the game and leaving the game. And then the next time when I came back to the game, it was like none of that had ever happened. And then on your wrist, it'll have a little listing of all the little things that you need to do on your wrist, which is really effective. And I looked at my thing on the wrist, and it's showing all of those things. I have to do all of those things again. And the little circles are just empty. And it's not telling me like, what is the next thing I'm supposed to do? So I think it had some type of bug or screwed up or something. Earlier today, I played it again, and I went on my wrist, and it had the right thing that I'm supposed to do. Now, in my most recent play session earlier today, when I was playing it, I'm in this mission where I'm at this like space station, and this lady is asking me, like, she did something to the robot, she updated them, and now they're shooting everybody. So she's like, please help me out. Can you take care of these robots? And so I'm going in there and I'm trying to kill all these robots. What Gary said about Star Wars, like, this is almost lawsuit potential. The robots are so freaking close to the Phantom Menace. They have these ones that roll on the ground and then pop open, look almost identical to the Phantom Menace. And then the other ones, the taller ones, again, Phantom Menace. Like, whoever designed this game was really up on Phantom Menace. But I'm killing all these robots, right? And so apparently there's one robot that's left over, and he's in this locked room where you need a key card. And that's part of this game, is you'll find key cards different places, and you'll find like a blue key card, and then that gets you into the blue doors. And then now I need like a yellow key card. Okay, so I need a yellow key card to kill this final robot to solve this mission. I've looked everywhere. I've covered every square inch of this space station that I'm in, and I cannot find this last key card. So I don't know, again, if it's like a bug or what it is, but basically I like the game, but I've still had some issues with it. The graphics are a little plain, but it runs great. That's nice. And there is a little worry from the standpoint that it is a procedurally generated game. So it's going to be creating all these different environments. And so it's going to reuse a lot of assets and just organize them in different ways. But I like the music. I like the vibe. I mean, some parts of it are like, wow, they did an incredibly good job here. And the only thing that's really holding me back right now is just the different bugs that I've experienced. But I do want to jump into like full bore multiplayer with like 4 different people. Just haven't gotten to that yet.
All right, cool. I definitely want to. I don't know. Like, I don't know if we can do this, but if we could all play it together, that'd be something really fun. That game is $39.99. Just so everyone knows on the podcast. Anything else anyone wants to say on that? Are we good?
No,
All right.
yeah.
I can talk about the next game, which is by BBC, and it's called Home, a VR spacewalk. And this is where you throw yourself into the ISS, I think, and it's inspired by NASA's training program, where you're an astronaut and you're just, trying to fix something on the space station. And we're not going to spoil what happens, but yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Very motion sickness inducing personally. I don't know. Ever since like Lone Echo, I really can't take any other form of like zero gravity. This didn't really feel like zero gravity. It felt more like pulling the world to meet with you, kind of. It was a little weird. But overall, I think it was a good story, and yeah, I liked it. It's just like a short, free experience. So yeah, Gary, what do you think?
I thought it was okay. Some parts of it, see, for me, I don't want to be like a graphics or anything like that. See, for me, it didn't really have the graphical impact of something like Mission ISS, and that's really the other experience to compare this to. And it wasn't as impressive as that title. However, certain other things like the actual image of the Earth that you look down on, I think that looked great. And it's just a short experience. It's free, so I can recommend it wholeheartedly because of that. But just comparing it to things that we've got that will compare to this Mission ISS, I'd say that was the better experience for me. It was more of a full experience, and it had more content to it. This is just a very short thing that you go through, and I guess it's got some narrative to it. The voice acting is okay. There's nothing that really stands out to me. I don't really know where to go from there really. It's there's nothing that stands out. It didn't blow me away. It was okay. That's really all I can say.
That's where I stand. I did this yesterday, and I really like things in space. I absolutely loved Lone Echo. This is more of a scripted, I say, is probably the fair way to do it, even though you may not know that playing it. It's more of a scripted experience, and as Chris mentioned, like it got me woozy, and games don't really do that anymore. I mean, I can play smooth turning games all day and don't have an issue, but this one, I think it's because it turns you, even like absent your control, absent your input. So sort of caveat there, warning for anyone that does check this out, is that maybe be prepared to start feeling a little motion sickness. But it's pretty cool. I'm pretty much where Gary is. There's nothing like, I can recommend it because it's free. Some parts of it look really good. Other parts of it seem a little just like misaligned or something. Like the hands feel a little bit off, but as you mentioned, Chris, it's like it feels like when you're kind of climbing on the rails, like as opposed to pulling yourself through the environment, it looks like you're grabbing the world and moving it into your view, which is a very notable difference in terms of how it makes you feel. So check it out because the price is free. If it costs anything, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but the price is right.
I guess I like this more than you guys. I have a dog going crazy in the backyard, so apologies if you hear barking right now. But what I liked about this, see, Mission ISS was you were just indoors. I don't think you ever got outside the space station, and that was cool. And you're floating around, and there's things that are floating, and you hit it, and the things move, and that was cool. But I liked this one from the standpoint of actually going outside. We don't want to spoil it because it's really short, but just in the very beginning of it, there's a part where you're like opening a latch and you push this thing, and when you first push it and you first see outside space, that part is kind of cool because you almost feel like it's like you're grabbing yourself and it's like you're trying to like jump out into space. And if the graphics were photo real, oh my God, that would be so incredibly powerful, and I think we're going to get there. And that's one of the great things about like just seeing this experience, because when you do get outside and you're holding on to different things, and you see planet Earth, and it's huge, and the sun is rising over wherever, and I just know there's going to be a day when our graphics are so freaking photoreal that stuff like this is going to bring tears to your eyes. Like, it's just going to be incredible. And we're not quite there yet. And it is a little bit oozy, and it's a little motion sickness causing, because like you're holding on to things, you're still, but then the world is like flipping around and rolling around. And that can really, really upset you. When you first start this, there's two options. There's like a beginner option and a VR veteran option. And I tried both, and I didn't notice that much of a difference between the two. So it didn't seem like if you did the beginner option, it was that much different. But I thought it was cool. I like the inverse kinematics. Like, they tell you to look at your gloves and make sure you don't have any rips on your gloves. And I thought it looked clean and crisp. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it.
I will say that on your point of comparing it to Mission ISS, where you go out in this experience, that was actually, thinking back, that was quite a big impact to me in that initial part where you sort of open the door and then you first go out. That is worth mentioning, because that isn't really in Mission ISS. But yeah, it was pretty good for that. The other thing is, there's some VR experiences where we play games and there's a clear definition of where your hand is within the game is where it is in real life. In this, it's a little bit odd. You pull yourself through that opening hatch, and your hands in the game aren't where they are in real life. You sort of have to reorientate yourself, because you'll grab hold of the edge of the hatch, and then you'll pull yourself up. But you'll find that you'll pull the controllers way down, and yet your hands in the game have only moved down very slightly. And it's a little bit jarring for me when games and experiences do that kind of stuff. It's a little bit jarring for me, and not everything does it, but there are some things that do.
Did anyone else have the issue where the music just stopped? I was like, the music stopped. I was touching every button. I was touching like my head. I didn't know what he said. He's like, you can turn back on the music. I'm like, where's the music? And I was looking all over the place. It just randomly started again. I'm like,
It was on your left shoulder. Your left shoulder.
Oh my goodness.
Or bicep, really.
I was looking everywhere. Yeah, but if you go into this, definitely don't think that things are one-to-one, and just know it's scripted, because like I didn't know it was scripted and everything felt weird, and I was like, I didn't even know when I did stuff. Sometimes it just kind of happened. So yeah, just like know that going into it, I guess. Do we want to talk about anything else, or we're good? All right. So yeah, thank you all for watching or listening to episode 64 of VR Roundtable. Be sure to leave a review if you're watching on iTunes or any other podcasting platform, or leave a comment, and we'd love to reply to your comments and all that on this episode. So we'll see you all next week. I'm Chris. I was hosting this week. I didn't do that good, but I did okay. So I'll see you all next week.
Good job, Chris.
Bye, everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Later.